Billboard Chris tweeted this out, a statement from Pope Leo, quote, "The promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist." And
well, that's okay. That's base, but it's like I think like people don't realize, even if there were a cardinal who were privately liberal on issues of like abortion or gay marriage or what have you, they would never publicly say that. So like they would publicly, at the very least, pay lip service to reflecting the church's teaching on those issues.
My mom wants me to say this real quick. She's like, by the way, he's pro BLM and he's a George Floyd sympathizer.
So hold on. Like,
this is a tweet from March of 2020. March of 2020, we're citing a retweet from March of 2020. Keep that in mind.
And hold on. He blessed the family of George Floyd, which I think is the Christian thing to do, even if they're your enemies, right?
He is not really known for making a lot of public statements, so people are just kind of speculating at this point and haven't waited for a time to like actually observe him leading. Jumping to conclusions.
Let me point out what Billboard Chris also mentioned in his tweet. He says, in a 2012 address to bishops, Cardinal Provost, now Pope Leo, lamented that Western news media and popular culture fostered, quote, sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with the gospel, citing homosexual lifestyle, alternative families comprised of same-sex partners and their adopted children. As a bishop in Chiclayo, a city in northwestern Peru, he opposed a government plan to add teachings on gender in schools. Quote, "The promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist." So it actually sounds like he may be based. I don't like the immigration stuff, but other than that, he may actually be.
Francis said similar things. Francis was outspokenly, obviously pro-life. Like, these are basic issues that the Catholic Church leaders are at least publicly united on. What I'm concerned about is what Catholics are divided on, especially as an American. And I mean, there are 1.4 billion Catholics, and the vast majority of them, myself included, do not pay close attention to ecclesial politics.
1.4 billion Catholics?
Yeah.
No, that can't be right.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah. 1.4 billion Catholics, and the vast majority of them don't pay attention to this stuff very closely, and that's me too. I was hoping and praying for a pope who is going to lift restrictions on the traditional Latin Mass, because I think that a lot of young people are flocking to that, and it should have a fostered revival in the U.S. or in the West in general. So protecting traditional liturgy, and then possibly one who is quiet, like maybe one who comments less to the media.
1.406. Yeah, crazy. I didn't know that. Wow.
Cardinal Sarah. I think that's who I was rooting for.
That's what a lot of people were rooting for, but it was unlikely.
I know
already.
Did you?
I mean, a lot of traditional leaning Catholics are thinking, obviously, this isn't like what we were hoping for, but we weren't expecting the best case scenario anyway. So we're going to be cautiously optimistic or just neutral for now before we can actually observe his leadership.
I feel like last week there was an article out, or somebody was talking about how there's no shot that there would ever be an American pope. Like that.
I thought so.
They weren't even in the, I don't remember where I read it or heard it, but they were saying that's because they didn't want to give Trump any more power.
But he was elected very quickly, which made me think, is he popular among these cardinals because they see the potential to use him against Trump?
That's what I'm worried about. One of the questions that I've gotten all day today is how likely is it that somebody like this could be, or a conclave could be infiltrated by somebody like George Soros, for example.
Infiltrated? In what way?
Infiltrate. I mean,
he's actually there.
No, not like he's actually there. I mean, I'm not saying it was going to be Pope Soros or anything like that, but talking about the fact that yes, there is I think a viable, realistic argument to say that the reason that you would put in an American Pope right now is to counter the Trump agenda, to pit Americans against each other.
Yeah.
But who could possibly coordinate that? How would that even take place? What goes on inside of a conclave where they could possibly work together to do something like that on behalf of us?
Like, I mean, if you watch any of like the Ulta, there was plenty of corruption. I mean, they're human. They are not infallible.
There is precedent for it as well, because some people believe the new bishop for the Diocese of Washington was appointed specifically like around DC, around our capital, as I said, like kind of an anti-Trump figure in the church. And I don't want to speak on it because I don't know the details, but there would be precedent for that already.
Okay, so those conspiracy theories aren't necessarily unfounded or totally, just extremely far
There
out
are
there.
infiltrators. There are corrupt people. That's indisputable. That's definitely true.
And I think it's always been that way too, though.
It's always been that way, but there's a new character to it now that we're in this like globalized world with globalized communication. And I'm pretty sure it was like over 100 of the cardinals who were voting were appointed or elevated rather by Pope Francis. So already allied with him and probably aligned with him on a lot of issues and his general perspective. I was hoping, and I could find out that this was a great choice later on. I was hoping that the new Pope elected would either be quiet and not comment to the media, or if he's outspoken at all, be outspoken on the Islamization of the West, mass apostasy in the West, and the pro-life and gay issues aside, because that's already a given, and then also protecting traditional liturgy, which is the only thing that I think is really bringing young people back into the faith. In the West, at least.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.